right? So let's go to the first one, which is identifying our thoughts and feelings. So during stressful situations, there are things, no, like for example, a certain event that have happened, like your boss scolded you in front of your team members, no, and said unacceptable words, hurtful words that hurts your thoughts, hurts your feelings. So there are certain thoughts and feelings generated from there. Okay, so the key part here is to identify it, no? Meaning making a conscious choice to think it over before reacting, no? To identify it. Like, I notice that my stomach is aching because of the hurtful things that my boss is saying. So another example in a dining scenario, if you're with your family and then you suddenly being hooked by the stress, no, I'm noticing a feeling of anger. So maybe it's because your children or your child said something that irritated you. So at that time you're being hooked by the stress. So the key action is to identify, no? I identify the thoughts and feelings. I notice that I'm feeling angry because my little daughter said this, or I noticed that I'm feeling angry because of the news, no, that was said that they're expending too much on anti-insurgency activities versus the education, providing materials for the students, no, one by one, adding that 10 million budget from there against the 16 billion budget from anti-insurgency. So that's a good example. No? Sometimes it hooks us, no, and we felt angry, and sometimes, no, there's a feeling of knot in my stomach, just what I described earlier when the boss was scolding the person with the team members, now in front of the team members, saying bad words or hurtful words. So let's apply. No? Was there any negative thought and feeling you have encountered today? So you could share in the chat box. No, was there any negative thought and feeling you have encountered today that you feel that you were hooked by this so-called stress, and identify what thoughts and feelings have you noticed. So I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to share it with us using the chat box, no, on what are those negative thoughts and feelings you have encountered today. Are there any or none? Especially for those who have answered, no, high in the stress levels, moderate to high. So please feel free to put it on the chat box. What is that negative thought and feeling, and how did you identify it? Well, how did you notice it? Was there a pain in the head? Was there a knot in your stomach? Okay, stress at work, back pain. Okay, Odessa. So I feel you because of are you working from home? Maybe because of too much. They call it Zoom fatigue. Nowadays, when you're working at home and then you're using the Zoom as a platform to meet up people and work, there's this thing so-called Zoom fatigue. You feel back pain, so you're stressed, no? It becomes a bit of a physical. No? So it's like I'm noticing I'm feeling a back pain. No? Negative. So Joshua also is negative stress at work. So what were your thoughts and feeling, Joshua? Is there a headache? A headache. Okay, thank you for sharing. So that's the key. We identify first what are the thoughts and feelings that we have from those stressful situations. Like, I feel that I have a headache. And then we will, okay, so George is feeling out of place and my thoughts kind of troubling. So he tries to write no, all the negative thoughts. After doing so, he feels better. So, yes, that's correct, George. Thank you for sharing that. So that's also one technique in order for you to release stress because sometimes we have no venue to release it. Some do it physically, doing a physical exercise. Some does journaling. No? That's journaling, part of journaling in order to relieve stress. So Gary's frustration, high anxiety. No? So high anxiety meaning does it excite you or it makes you like your muscles stiff? No, like or you cannot sleep completely at night, especially because Gary's an IT guy, so down system is down. No? So it's really a stressful moment, especially business was affected because of that system issue, in which he has to fix as the IT. So what were you feeling? Were you feeling like stiffness in your chest? So those things, as you mentioned, there's a origin. No? There's from the stressful situation, there's a manifestation on how we receive it on our thoughts and feelings. And the first thing to do is I identify the thoughts and feelings that the stressful situation is manifesting on your body. So I noticed that I have a headache. I noticed that I have a back pain. So there's a feeling of yes, the throat. No, it's like you're gasping for breath or not naman no dryness nor itchy throat because if that's the case you might be tested no immediately. Yeah, the key thing here is just identify the thoughts and feelings that you are feeling or the way that you are thinking in terms of that stressful situation. So like there's a gasping for breath in terms of the throat, stiffness of the muscles, back pain,